Welcome to the Jay and Brian Show, the fastest growing real estate finance podcast in America. Today's show is brought to you by My City Lender. Here now, Jay and Brian.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the Jay and Brian Show, sponsored by My City Lender Home Loans. Today we are sitting here with Frank Leutz. Frank is founder of Desert Car Care, host of Wrench Nation. You can find Frank at wrenchnation.tv. He's on YouTube. He's got a great channel there. He makes his round on the radio. 88.7 comes to mind. Frank, it's so awesome to have you here today.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. And just to clear the air, I'm not late on my mortgage payment. I think this is a good thing. So I think that's a good start.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So we have a qualified citizen here with us today. It's great to have you here, Frank.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for having me.
Auto industry veteran. Can't wait.
I mean, veteran, I don't know. I want to feel like I'm young. But yeah, I've been in the industry for 32 years and been in business, in one shape or form since 1995 and served the industry as well. Like the industry has been very good to me. And a lot of what I do, especially over the last 5 to 7 years, is really how do we figure out how to make everyone better?
But so you're great. I mean, you have given back to the community and you have contributed so much to the automotive industry in general, but you're always giving back.
I think so. Someone, one of my good clients gave me a book. Like you always think in your gut, yeah, we're all go-getters. We're entrepreneurs. We're go-getters. But then he gave me this book and it was called The Go-Giver. And I'm like, wow, light bulb went off. And I think a lot of us, we don't realize it, but I think those that get it, it's just part of the nature of the deal. We don't think about anything. We got to respect metrics. We got to respect, the life we want to design for ourselves, But I think in all of that, you cannot leave out your community, whether it's micro or macro, in this case, industry, and of course,
you do it. You just do it.
Yeah, I mean, we have fun with it. I have worked our marketing calendar, which I share with the industry. Every month there's something new and fresh, and it's tied in, whether it's the Cub Scouts that we're teaching, Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, the women's clinics, you name it. I mean, we've partnered up with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, a serious message with some of the local high schools, Chandler High, Hamilton, and so on. And so there's always something. And I think all businesses, especially service-related businesses, I can speak on the service side. Well, anyway, we all serve in one way or another, right? There should be some form of function of reciprocating back to the community that's supporting you, with your product, good, or service.
So true.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's not easy. I can tell you, I've done TV segments where it's 3 a.m. and then we get canceled because Al Qaeda attacked.
Oh my God.
It's media.
So whatever,
but it's part of the journey, and I think we all have our unique stories and need to trust our journeys that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So probably our viewers and listeners would be wondering, why are we talking to someone,
a car guy?
Yeah, like why are we talking to an outside of industry professional?
Most mechanics want to aim to own a house.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe there's got to be some way to get there.
Yeah.
But how are the industries related?
Well, we're a big part of GDP. I mean, if you look at the automotive sector, I mean, that's the fact, as well as the all things home sector, financing, loan,
second
home
largest purchase.
Yeah, it is.
Is your car.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I want to talk about that because many are listening and they're like, oh, I don't know what to put into my car. One of the things that we do is we go back to what a national average is. And I want to throw this out before I forget, because it's something that we use as a guideline in how we advise and let folks decide. Sometimes we get trapped in the emotion. Well, this old car is not worth it and such. And so what I tell folks, it's a AAA statistic, is that the national average per year on an Asian or domestic, you'd want to know how much should I be putting in my car, is about $1,200 a year. It's about $100 a month.
Okay.
Now, if you own a fancy Mercedes, it's something like
or a Land Rover.
Yeah, right, which are great platforms, but you're probably going to be into that for a little north of $2,000 a year. Yeah. But my point is, when we evaluate the service that's needed and we have this conversation, we throw that out there. Not always is it a smart idea to fix the ride. and unfortunately now it's a different time. This is
It is.
it's an anomaly, quite frankly.
And it's tough. It's tough to buy a new car.
Well, we're going to get deeper into that.
Yeah.
Right? We want to talk more about that automotive sector. A lot of consumers who are listening, should I keep my hoopty?
Yeah.
Or should I get rid of it, with interest rates and such the way they are going? But I think the overall writing fact is most consumers don't have a clue about what's under hood, and that's okay. You build a relationship and certainly ground and pound and ask those financial questions. And then we figure out, related to that, how long am I going to keep it? So a lot of my younger soccer moms that were growing their families, they may have been a four-door sedan, but they've got plans of more children. Putting all that kind of money in a Chrysler 300, they're not going to own. They're going in a Toyota Sienna. So I think a good local Rockstar Automotive Service Center is going to guide that and not just spew all this. Really, I'll just tell you, you'd rather get your teeth pulled than go to a mechanic. And
I think most would agree.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we have to be responsible for that. So a lot of the automotive facilities that get it are really going to guide folks there. They're going to fix your car well, but I think the financial side is important,
Absolutely,
and knowing a direction, because we don't as consumers. Like if my roofer comes out, or in your business, I'll use another example. You may do a walkthrough of my house. It may not be worth much, and I'm getting ready to drop a $250,000 remodel. You may slap me. And it could work the other way around. So I think whatever we do, I think as a part of that overriding service, like you guys do, you want to meet up an individual and their lifestyle and their needs. What's life look like 3 to 5 years from now regarding a home and the neighborhood, the schools, and all that kind of stuff.
So where are we at this point in the auto industry from a financial standpoint?
It's ugly for new and used cars. It's ugly for banks. Repossessions are up. The luxury market. In fact, I just tuned into a report that the luxury market. So post-COVID, as money was given like candy, money was free. We didn't necessarily act responsible with that.
Interesting.
Well, when you don't even ask for it and it shows up.
It does. Now, I tried to keep whole with that whole situation and say, well, that's my money anyway, because it's tax money that I put in.
Right.
I mean, you can have fun with it, but the fact is, there was a lot of money in the market. I mean,
we did have some fun with it, though.
A little bit.
I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
So everything was feeding frenzy. And so my understanding is that the banks pretty much said, hey, right after COVID, relax it. In other words, write the deal, write the loan. Excuse me. And so now what we're seeing is shaky ground on folks that not quite 2008. The guy working in Jack in the Box bought the $700,000 mortgage and it was variable and it popped.
Yeah.
You guys know.
We still see it all the time. The guy who shouldn't be driving the F-250 Super Duty limited edition with a $900 a month payment.
Right. So we really are going to pay for that. And
so
when
is there a credit bubble right now, do you think?
Absolutely. I think it's an everything bubble. I mean, I'm not a financial analyst, but I do pay attention. Not that that's not good, especially for future generations, but to your point on the new and used car situation, we will see prices drop. However, interest rates will continue their rise. We're actually behind, in my opinion, if we go back into history and inflation.
I would agree.
So we're going to have to deal with some short-term pain. But when you have this imbalance in supply and demand, it's got to correct. And right now it's through higher rates.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, it kind of is, it's part of the equation on the housing side with limited inventory and heightened demand. But it seems like that ratio is even more skewed on the automobile side. There's the supply chain issues persist, the chip shortage, all these things equate to far fewer cars available for people to buy. You still see relatively empty lots at the car dealers. But price, so that's pushing prices up and up and up. Maybe this is not exactly where we're going with this right now, but GM just announced their new Denali electric truck, $107,000.
Yes. If you're ready to roll, I'll give you my opinion. It's not going to be pretty. if the big three don't get their act together, as Tesla has currently 68, 72% of market share, we need to stop domestically highlighting engineering's great. We want to sizzle what we can do under hood. The $300,000 Cadillac Celeste EV, that's great. I just posted in our little private group, Service Life, to other industry folks that the message to the consumer, especially now with an EV transition, is, wow, that's nice, but it's so out of line and so spendy. So if the big three, and on your point, GM is coming out with an affordable Chevy Equinox. If they don't get their act together regarding market share over the very near future, in the next 12, 24, 36 months, we're going to have a problem. And could that problem look like, and we may get some hate in the comments on this, could one of the big three go out of business?
Probably not out of the question.
So, I mean, I hope not. I love American made, and you know, I want to see everyone succeed that way. But in terms of the original question of the new car and used car market, we do have this EV transition, but we also have a major transition on how we want to transact. Do I need to go to
a store,
a glorified brick and mortar? And in fact, I see that change happening in our aftermarket world, and we lead. We're 70% of the public service and repairs are coming to us, rock stars in the community, to fix and service. The dealerships, the OEs, they know that, and it is a part of the deal. But my point is, it's not just on the OE dealer side of you going in and dealing with 8 people to buy a car, and it's maybe that streamlined is not as bad as the 70s or 80s or even just 5 and 10 years ago. Most dealers want to make it work, and they want to make a transaction happen. But what we have seen with Elon Musk and Tesla and many other companies is, I'm empowered by my phone. Not only is my car a part of my phone, but how I transact. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes regarding the aftermarket, the world that we live in, service and repair. We're going to have to change our concept and our business model to a much more service-oriented experience. So, for example, if you come in with your Model 3, because I have the charging stations and I'm there, what am I going to offer you as to a reason why I would come and hang out if you're on your way to a destination? So a lot of this needs to be considered, and we're going to see a lot of changes in the marketplace, which I think is for the betterment.
It's probably a good thing.
Of course, we evolve.
And I was thinking about that too, even with the new car dealerships where you're seeing, you know, like Brian just said, there's very limited inventory on these new car lots. Are we ever going to see new inventory again? Or are they going to transition into the, you know, more the Tesla model where you're, it's more of a store.
Yeah, I mean, your Carvanas and CarMaxes will exist, but remember, through the lead of California and approximately automatically 16 to 18 other states, whatever California, however they move their head, they've got a good 16, 18 states legislatively that will follow in the automotive arena. So by 2035, California has mandated, we're done with ICE, internal combustion engines. You can no longer, as of 2035, have a new. Now, you'll be driving your old ICE, and slowly that's going to go away. And they've got a huge movement to transition. In fact, I think the goal was 45,000 EV charging stations out in California, because then the argument would be, hey, Frank, I understand I want to have that lifestyle, and I can probably afford the Model 3 as it were, but where's the charging stations, the infrastructure? So that will get better, and that will come online. I think
Don't we kind of... Oh, no. Go ahead, finish.
Just real quick, I wanted to summarize, because I probably got a lot of mechanics upset about, are we going the way of the elevator man? We are not, but we will evolve how the elevator functions. And that must include the design of the consumer experience as that evolves.
Yeah.
And right now, there's a ton of training for EV tech. We now have capability to to have Tesla's software, Tesla's toolbox is what they call it. So we can do some things. But lots of changes. Which
I was just reading that too.
Yeah.
Now it seems like a lot of the automotive shops are going to be wired to be able to kind of handle these electric vehicles and do a better job, or any job at all, in comparison to what's been available for these customers.
There's no doubt that EV is taking hold, and if I'm being honest, I'd love to have a Tesla in my garage. I think that would be awesome. My neighbor just
what's holding you back? Let's talk about that.
I've got 2 cars, actually 3, because my son's about to turn 16. He's got his permit right now.
So you've got a fleet already.
We've got a fleet already. Right. My truck is paid for, which is awesome and
Hallelujah.
freeing. 6-year-old F-150, by the way.
I have an 08 F-150.
Absolutely love it.
It's not going anywhere. I love my F-150.
I pull it behind my diesel motorhome now.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
But I wonder, and I think a lot of people wonder, how in the world are you going to be able to produce? Like, California's got this mandate. Have they thought through the electrical grid infrastructure in terms of how they're going to have everybody plugging their cars in and support that? Because that's a huge energy use. I think that's as big a question that they're not answering when it comes to the proliferation of the electric vehicles.
It is. I mean, right now it's messy as transitions are. On that note, as well as how we source the materials, i.e., lithium and copper and nickel, and these aren't items from the earth that are forever. So the science of it is evolving. In fact, there's a huge movement of action. Folks are developing ways to repurpose batteries and that whole recycling movement, because there is an argument of, well, where do EVs come from regarding crude oil chain and our carbon footprint? It is better, but there's still...
And there's still some works for hydrogen in the future.
Hydrogen, Toyota. It's interesting. Toyota is betting on hydrogen. We just did a show.
And who was it? Ford, too? Ford that we heard?
You're talking about, I mentioned this to you a while back. I have a good friend of mine and past client is high up in the parts and service organization at Ford, and he's here locally. And I had a conversation not too long ago, and I was talking about the F-150 Lightning with him. I told him I had put my reservation in. He's like, that's awesome. We really appreciate that. But he goes, there are other technologies that are being worked on that could possibly make EV technology actually obsolete sooner than you might think.
This is a theory right now.
And hydrogen, I think, is one of them.
We dedicated a whole show of hydrogen, and this is probably 4 to 6 weeks ago. Hydrogen is not out of the question. I think we need to go back to something that in our country, certainly in China, certainly in Europe, and that's regulations and how we support as a government by way of credits our new bell and whistle, right? So depending on how we evolve there, are we going to support the hydrogen movement as we are currently with the EV movement? Some would argue that we're making such a great trajectory right now with EVs. Why hydrogen? Hydrogen is by far a great way to go. And in fact, part of our show is we covered the fact that if you think hydrogen, you think about the blimp, the Hindenburg.
Yes, exactly. The big explosion.
I'm not going to, I don't want to explode. But the fact is, the testing has been done extremely well in the fact that that is not the case.
There's been a lot of issues, though, reported anyway, even just since the major hurricane in Florida, about the electric vehicles burning up, and then even like the tow trucks not like just flat out refusing to pick these cars up.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a sealed battery, and that can be violated. If it's compromised, you can have that. But if you took, in terms of Tesla's performance from a safety and reliability point, it's still very stellar.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In fact,
the odds you're going to land your Tesla submerged underwater.
But it is a thought. I mean, if my daughter's driving a Tesla,
in saltwater,
and she's driving up by Canyon Lake, and God forbid something happens.
I think it's the salt water, though. I
think that was part of it.
Yeah, salt water, water intrusion, so on and so forth. But I think the safety record, in fact, currently, the big debate is, do we call an over-the-air update? So, for example, and we see this in the garage, you'll come in, your brake pedal fades. Maybe it's our first time meeting. You took it elsewhere, spent a boatload of money on hardware.
Yeah.
Brake master, brake pads, and you still had the pesky fade. Well, there could be an update, just like your smartphone. The engineers change the parameters. We download it through a hub. We get in and we reprogram the vehicle to correct the symptom. So back to Tesla. Tesla has quite a few over-the-air updates, which means if you've got 100,000 Tesla owners, Model 3, let's say, and they all on a Thursday night said, hey, this was a problem, it's instant. And it's an update. Does that update need to be a recall? So Elon Musk, that's his new battle.
That's interesting.
Because remember, recalls hurt primarily the financial position of a company in the short term. I mean, I think most will recover. We can go back to Toyota. We can go back to many situations. The Takata airbag situation, which was horrendous. But that's a viable question.
The Audi 5000 from 85.
Oh, yeah.
Unintended acceleration.
I get nervous if I see.
Yeah, you see one out there and you're like, oh.
I'm not going to say all things Audi, but I like the Audi R8. But that's the point, though. That's the technology and where it's going. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, which is critical and is a battle for the industry, the aftermarket, is attaining the data to properly test the vehicle. So the F-150, non-Lightning, has 100 million lines of code. So if your check engine light comes on, we need the flow charts. We need all the testing information so that we can communicate. And currently, that's a battle. Now, in Massachusetts, the aftermarket won that decision, but it's in forever appeal right now. And this was a bloodbath because the way the original equipment manufacturers, the OEs, want to set this up is that you don't need some untrained individual to get in there, because while he's in there, it could be hackable or things like that. So when you bring your car in, I have a separate secure network for any transaction that we're doing regarding data. So we're protecting that information. You guys remember some time ago, I think it was Chrysler, they showed that a Jeep was on the road and it was hijacked. It was hijacked from the computer remotely, and it was hacked, and all these things.
I think that's a concern, even with Tesla.
Of course,
some people are kind of pushing back on that. I don't want my car to be able to be shut off on me.
The aftermarket
when the grid goes down.
Absolutely, we have said that. Absolutely, we don't want that to happen.
The very first people carrying smartphones, probably the non-quick adopters were like, I don't want something in my pocket that somebody can track me. Now every person.
Yeah, you're talking about all the old brick phone and pager people.
Oh, they can't track me on these things. I'm going to hold on to this.
The old flip phone.
Yeah, but I mean, so part of that right to repair, that's through the Auto Care Association, is to position ourselves as an aftermarket we're definitely going to be stewards of data. Which means we're going to have sort of a mediated situation, whether that be through a hub, a fee, a subscription. I know that in the European market, if you're fixing Mercedes and BMW and so on, the fees to be able to subscribe from the OEs on that, there's an expense for that to attain that data. So I think we'll be on the right side, which means we can service your vehicle and you hear less of, well, you have to take it elsewhere. Because you don't want to hear that.
No.
You love me and you want me to fix it.
Well,
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right.
I mean, one thing I've run into the entire time I've owned my truck, I got it from a local Ford dealer over here, and they have one of the biggest, most busiest service centers.
You can probably plug it, I think. Don't you think? I don't know.
Yeah, Santam Ford. I mean, it's been an amazing experience over there.
Good people.
The purchase experience was awesome. The service experience has been amazing. It's just been a little challenging to get on the calendar for service. They're a couple of months out.
Cars.
Fortunately, we have 3 cars, so I can deal with that. I can take it over there and leave it. I can do a drop off and leave it there for
Have you asked yourself, why is that?
Well, that's my question I mean, obviously there's so many cars out there, not enough service capacity locally is what it really comes down to. But why is that? Why is there not more capacity?
There is a major shortage of automotive technicians. It's huge. I don't have the exact figure, but I think it's 70,000 technicians needed every year for the next 5 years. It's huge. There's such a shortage.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at a business model to answer the need for the talents that are limited out there to go into a 4-day work week and rotating folks, because what we're finding, I mean, we've always had a positive vibe culture, right? We're best places to work, small business of the year. Even at that level, it can be hard to attain talent because the labor pool's not there. And in general, if you look at society demographically, that's kind of going to be the case when you have 77 million baby boomers that are exiting. You add to our industry, mom and dad just don't want their kid to grease around with a car, which is far from the truth. That's what we promote on the show. It's a respectable industry, but that's why you're seeing a backlog, because you're getting, sure, there's a lot of cars on the road. The average year the car is going up. Right now it's just about 12 years, where traditionally it may have been like 11.3. Every day, every month makes a difference in the fleet. So the shortage is real, and it's very difficult. I invite folks that are catching the show to visit Tech Force Foundation. They're local, Scottsdale. They award millions of dollars in scholarships. There are many organizations that are really trying. Tech Force Foundation, Jennifer Maher and her team. They were actually a media partner of ours, but forget media partner. We just are in bed with that whole movement of how do we as an industry, we can't blame people. First off, we have to take responsibility. Perhaps we didn't pay well. Perhaps our places were garbage, and perhaps the industry on a whole just did crappy.
Yeah.
And so there is a movement, there is a recognition, and certainly at the dealership level, they get it as well. So, but yeah, it's always been my fear when I can't service my client and I'm a week out. I mean, that's...
you have a partnership with EVIT, correct? You work a lot
So
with
the
EVIT?
East Valley Institute of Technology, we have been doing the show live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. For the last 6 or 7 years. We can do the show anywhere, but we choose to do the show there so we can promote the school.
It's so related. Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
They're nationally ranked. Skills USA. And it's not just the automotive. I mean, obviously we're biased.
Well, aviation mechanics also.
Aviation. You've got culinary, fire sciences, and so on. So, as I said, we can do the show anywhere. But we do it there. We post-produce it, and it goes up to Radio Land Podcast and the website. But, I think it's important that we highlight the educators. They're unsung heroes.
Yep.
And maybe tune in the parents that it's not what I thought for someone in the household, young gal, young guy.
Yeah.
What's their worst case scenario? They can figure out their car. That's great. Their best case scenario is that they enter the industry. So that I could go on and on about that. But Tech Force Foundation and, of course, East Valley.
I think there's a big love for cars here in this, not only in this state, but in this metro area. There's a big love for cars. And,
there is.
I don't think that's one thing to be ashamed about.
Well, we talk about car culture, and one of the things I ask, in fact, I had was honored to have Jens, he was from Denmark, called in from Denmark. It was like 1 a.m. We were so grateful. His media and publicist made it all happen. But Jens Martin Skibsted from Denmark is a leading designer. He was on one of the first flying cars. Don't ask me to say the name of this flying car, but this was back in the mid 2000s or so. And so we talked about car culture. In Europe, it's bike culture. I mean, everyone's on a bike.
Yeah.
And I asked him the question. I said, do you think we'll ever get there? He goes, well, no. I mean, in a nutshell, but my point is we are a driving culture, and that's a big, big question.
I think we want to love our cars. Everybody.
It's an extension of who we are. But here's another one. I had New York City Traffic Commissioner, Gridlock Sam Shorts, former New York City Traffic Commissioner. He was on the show. He has a book, No One Behind the Wheel. He predicts in 2050, mid-century, that you will be arrested for driving a vehicle in certain jurisdictions. Now, go figure that. What is that going to do to car culture?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, will our great grandkids look at us and laugh that we drove?
Yeah, like what?
Like we do with the horse and carriage crowd turn a century or whatnot. Yeah. So it's interesting times. And
I mean, why not? I mean, the autonomous driving technology is
pretty incredible.
It's growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, our kids laugh at us when they find out that we used to have our phones connected to the wall.
Yeah, it's how how we evolve.
It's going to happen. I mean, it's
a matter of time. But in terms of all these changes, and we can kind of switch gears from under hood and technology to the financial markets. And my oldest daughter, who's a teacher, she's got a master's, and she's frustrated as heck because she wants to buy a home.
Where does she teach?
She teaches in the Madison School District. Okay. Washington School District.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. Second year teaching, went to ASU. She loves it. Mm-hmm. And so far, she still loves it. Like, I don't want her to lose that passion. We all know that teachers are unsung heroes, and there's a lot of issues there when you compare countries like Japan and Europe, for that matter, where they pretty much kiss the ground of teachers. You stop your day.
My wife's a teacher, so I got a place
exactly.
In the heart.
So when we talk about the home market, I mean, I just can tell my daughter it's cyclical. Like, there's going to be an opportunity for you. Save your money, work hard and grind, love what you do. There'll be an opportunity, because I think for at least the last couple of years, many have been forced on the sideline, and now we have the interest rates, which some are just giving hope, giving up on hope.
They really have. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have.
And I think there's no shame in the game of renting something nice. Mm-hmm. I obviously was seeing apartments and that sort of thing go up like crazy. That's probably a dictation of what's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but I think for youngsters that are coming up, I mean, we've all had, as we've been growing up, we've sort of had these financial cycles, and the news gives it to us, and we're like, oh God, I'll never have anything.
No, I mean, the message,
but it's a cycle.
The message for young people is you have to be long on it, and that's so hard.
It is hard. It's so
especially
hard.
For kids coming out of school. They've only been working for a couple of years, and they're struggling to save because inflation, everything's costing more. Their car costs them a bunch, but you have to go long on it. And like you said, if you put a saving plan together and you actually just a little bit each month, I mean, you'll get there, and the market will reset. That's what we're going to see in the next year to two. Rates will eventually chill out and they'll come back down, and then the two will line up and there'll be an opportunity again.
Yeah.
A couple episodes ago, we actually talked about, so now we're seeing some loan programs for home buying hit the market again, stuff that we haven't seen in 15 years. We're actually seeing this like interest rate buy down program
but not predatory.
No.
I've got to mention that because we saw some of that in 05, 04, 05, 06.
With the negative amortization, that kind of stuff.
This is lenders saying that, we want to increase our loan volume over where it is right now. So we're going to allow a seller to actually pay for a portion of the payment for the first couple of years in the form of an interest rate reduction.
Yep.
It's bona fide dollars right back into the pocket of the buyers.
And the seller has to pay it.
The seller has to pay it.
So it's a really neat, it's a neat program. So if the rate starts,
so you go from the seller painting the house to now skin in the game. We're a part of it, which I guess, I mean, in the end, the math works out.
If you take a $300,000 loan for a $400,000 loan, I think is the math I did recently. You start with 7%. The first year, you're actually paying 5%. That's probably $600 a month less.
Is this to hedge inflation? Because we know that's going to get corrected and the rates should drop. We're not going to go Volcker style. And
by the time this expires, chances are they'll be able to refinance it into a lower rate.
It's a way to allow sellers to pay up front an amount of money that helps buyers afford it and achieve their home ownership
mutual goals. Mutual goals, I guess.
Of course, under the understanding that your rate will be here in 2 years, and you can never promise a refinance, obviously, but eventually rates will come down. You're not married. You're married to your home. You're not married to your rate.
Well, I think you should marry a mechanic and save a couple bucks a month to fix your car.
I agree with that.
I've seen so many surprise repairs, and it's tough. We keep a little tissue box, and it's like,
yeah.
It's. But I think in the end, I see opportunity. If you go to commercial paper right now, obviously we're looking for a brick and mortar to expand. It's a tough time, and it's a tough swallow to see the rates, SBA, and so on. But I do believe that. Part of that, like it may upset me that money costs more now, and I'm okay with that because I think money costs more now gets rid of the half-baked talent. Think about that. When money is easy, I mean, I'm just going to say in 08, actually 07, 08, leading to March of 2009, that crash.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew people that were part-time mortgage brokers that were roofers. I don't know if you remember that. And they were writing paper.
House cleaners.
They were
tax preparers.
And I remember this, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not a financial analyst. I can adjust carburetors, and I look at fuel trim.
And neither are they.
I see a sky falling.
Something's not sustainable,
and it just didn't feel right. And so,
well, there are projections right now in our industry of upwards of maybe 40% of loan officers might not renew next year.
Because everybody has to be licensed now. So since 2011, early 2011, everybody has to be licensed.
Oh, as well.
So that changed a bunch of that back then.
Well, here's something interesting, and I'm sure a lot of folks that are listening or watching, should a mechanic be licensed? Do you think they're licensed?
But they have to be certified, right? ASC certified, or they don't have to be?
At a dealer.
Let me tell you, and there's, we've been working. In fact, I've done some state legislative work to get this passed, and it's a tough subject. Currently, you could be, I go back to the painter, nothing against painters. They have skill set. Decide, okay, that part of that painting business is done for now. I'm going to open up a garage. You need a business license. You don't need to be certified. You don't need to be certified. The ASC tests, the ASC certifications for most rock stars in the industry that own a shop, they're going to employ. And if they're hiring entry level, they're going to have a trajectory. A part of this whole pay scheme is we're going to pay for your training, which means you're going to work to getting your ASC, Automotive Service Excellence, testing. But there is no. Now, California is a little different, right? I mean, you've got the Consumer Automotive Repair Bureau, and they're on top of things. But in most states, you need a business license. And so should that be, would the consumer argue yes? Would they? I would believe so.
I mean,
but some would say no. And so
I think it's easy to
because
say.
it's big government.
Well, it's easy,
big government.
It's easy to
but
say,
somebody's got to pay for that.
It's easy to say yes because it must mean that I'm going to have assurance that my car is going to be repaired correctly the first time. But I don't know if that would necessarily be the case at all. I mean,
your recourse right now is a bad Google review. Yell at the owner. Years ago, and God bless the Better Business Bureau. You write and try to get BBB to mediate.
Can a shop survive if they don't know what they're doing and they open it up anyway? And they
not today.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I opened my first place in 1995, and there was some funny business in the marketplace, and I'm like, wow, how could they still be in business? And they were. Part of the problem is, as consumers, what do we know? Price.
Right.
And I'm careful how I say this. It's price. So we judge our automotive service experience the same we would the coupon for Berber carpet that's on sale on a Sunday morning. We judge it on price. And price could be bait if it's not according to the value of good service, the ownership, by the way, of warranty, the livable wage paid to folks. It's exactly like your industry. You know that you can't have agents on your team if they're not in the game to have a future, not only to present the value, but make a career out of it, which means I've got to have a livable wage at least, and not a sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And so part of our industry's biggest conundrum, and it's gotten better, it was rampant back in the day was you'd answer the $14 oil change, as they called it back then. And then you got in and you were like, oh my gosh, trying to sell me every under the episode. They cannot speak in complete sentences. And it's like they didn't fix it right. Yeah. The risk, as we know with price, I mean, I don't want to sound cliche. So I think the start of a relationship should be the research, not on a perfect rating, but how does this establishment, how does this mortgage company deal with the pain when they fell short? None of us are perfect. And so, and then I can gauge.
You actually have a darn near perfect rating.
I don't want to call it perfect. We have
it's darn near perfect. 700, it's like almost 800 reviews.
30. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So
that's
I
hard
think,
to get to.
I believe so. It's a lot of hard work. It's an owner and a team and a vibe and a culture. And it's not just automotive that actually examines the shortcomings, because you're not going to get better with your fancy 5 stars. No. Once in a while, there's an issue, which means that I need to get with my tribe, figure that out. I need to change my policies. I need to correct. Maybe I need to get more training in a certain area. And guess what? Your client base, they will respect that. Because I think most common sensible consumers about their approach, they just want to know that you're going to own it.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I get passionate on it, but there's action that needs to be done behind it. And it's not just the automotive industry. So when we lead forward on price, or in your world, I'm not knocking the for sale by owner. Many want to do that. Hey, that's a respectable way they want to go. But we all know there's pros and a lot of cons to that. It's like buying a business. There's been a few transactions in my time where it was an FSB, you know, sale by owner, and things are funny, and there's no mediation to that to keep me safe
or to keep you sane.
Exactly, and things change.
Yeah.
So,
but there's peace of mind. I think when you're dealing with a professional. You know, I would say that's the same in the auto care industry.
I want concierge.
I want to be taken
service.
care of. That's how I feel too. As a consumer, I want to feel like I'm cared about, and I want to feel like my service experience matters, not just to the people that I'm dealing with, but you know, to the people that actually own the establishment that I'm dealing with. Yeah, you know, I think that's standard.
I think we should allow. I think part of the entrepreneurial spirit, no matter what you do, basket weave, sell homes. Refinance homes, tinker with carburetors, whatever you do.
Basket weaving.
I think you should allow that journey to take place, you know, and always understand. I think we'd have a better society at it. One of the phenomenons that I've seen, and I just hope it's not here to stay, but some of our age group, certainly there are baby boomers out there, and we have this disconnect, like, they're lazy. Kids are lazy. Well, my mom called me lazy. Yeah. Her mom called her lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think we need to dig deeper. And I think no matter what demographic or industry that you're in, it's part of the process. And if you allow that process to take place, we have the most important thing, which is growth. And we don't flatline. And if we go back to COVID, it was a terrible time. I actually, out of COVID, you know, I can't prove this scientifically. I was blessed, but I had a quintuple heart bypass. So prior to COVID, and I'm going somewhere with this, but prior to COVID, I didn't feel well. I did SEMA Apex, came back, and I just didn't feel well. And this was January 2020, and I couldn't breathe. And they went in and did testing. They said you had corona. Man, this is all new to us, corona. I'm like, pass me the beer. What's corona? Yeah. But out of that, they treated that, which was, in my opinion, it was just like a very bad flu, body ache, that couldn't breathe.
Were you in the hospital too?
Yeah. So this was at St. Joe's. And so St. Joe's said, hey, we worked you up. This is how we're going to treat it. But by the way, go get your heart checked. Had I not gotten sick, because 3 or 4 days later, I was at the heart hospital. And for me, that was a blessing, because it's Black Widow, 200% plugged, third 90, fourth 60. The fifth, you're not born with 5. It was growing. So had I not.
Oh my gosh.
So my point is, out of this sort of situation with finances and situations with your car and maybe your bleak outlook to buy a home, there's always something to be grateful for. And it's just how we perceive
what
things.
A great story.
And so when I repeat the story, my point with primarily my brothers, my fellow man, is to go and get tested. Like you shouldn't wait till you get a symptom. And I had no symptoms. I'm hiking, I'm swimming. And in the end of this, I'm thinking, okay, why? What happened? It's in the DNA. My father in Italy was like, oh yeah, don't worry. I had, so that sort of thing. But thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah.
Because that was a big deal. I've been through a lot, and that was a big deal for me.
Well, glad to see you came back from that.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing after this show.
Sorry, get your echoes done.
Yeah. Got to get into the doctor, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
thanks, Frank.
Yeah. My mom had to have a heart valve replacement, and we're sitting there in the doctor's office, and he turns to me and he goes, yeah, your kid should get checked too. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm in my mid 40s. He goes, yeah, you should have probably gotten it checked in your 30s to make sure you didn't have the same thing going on that your mom does. And thank God I don't. I got fully checked out, the ultrasound, the EKG, the whole battery of tests. But yeah, you can't take it for granted. You really should be following up on these things.
Well, it's hard too. I mean, if you think about and I don't just speak
Nobody
for men.
wants to when they feel healthy, right?
You're right. Not speaking just for men, we tend to be knuckleheads and we're like, yeah, that pain in my chest, it was a bad meatball or whatever. Meanwhile,
indigestion.
Meanwhile, our partners in life are like, you need to get checked out. But I think the bottom line is we're not 20 somethings forever.
Right.
And I still, even after the whole spiel, the heart surgery and medicine and science is just incredible. Mm-hmm. I have all the praise for the nurses and the cardiologists. They're just amazing. But my point is, even after that, I still think I'm 27. Yeah. It's hard to release that, you know,
for sure.
But you do change your behavior and your diet and so on. I mean, it's part of the deal, So
has it affected how you approach your business? Has it changed your mindset on that at all?
Well, I'm always dialing in. What happens is we go back to the whole go-getter thing. You do what you got to do. I will tell you, and maybe this led up to this, is, when I started Wrench Nation, I'm working garage. I have great people, great store manager, but there's always something with a business to work on. Well, when I had Wrench Nation started out, my kids would go and make sure they're sleeping, they're down. Wife's watching TV. Frank's writing shows, working at from 11 to 1 in the morning. And that was just modus operandi. Wow. And so one of the things that I learned, because there seems to be a controversy on, well, you don't need sleep. And I was a 100-hour-a-week guy. You don't need sleep. Sleep is huge.
Yeah, you do.
Studies show that sleep is huge. And once in a while, you get this hashtag fake news guru that says, no, grind more, 150 hours a week, and you just need 2 hours of sleep. Get out of bed. Sleep heals the body. Yeah. And, now I look back. And so to answer your question, I'm choosing my battles. You can't help after something like that to really, I missed the first 5 years of my daughter's life with my first business. Losing money, being everybody's hero. I loved people. But I missed her life, first 5 years, because where was Dad? 18 hours in the garage. And so that's not happening now, and so my youngest, I made it a business to spend more time and be there for her. And I think as entrepreneurs, we get so much the balance is really what we're chasing. Mm-hmm. We're not chasing the money.
100%.
We're not chasing the money.
100%.
I mean, we're chasing the balance, which includes our families and our kids.
Yeah.
How many wrecked marriages have come out of this knucklehead or male or female is chasing something, and we're chasing the balance. We got to get that figured out. And I know I'm preaching, and maybe I'm biased because I had this surgery, but it is what it is. Yeah. And so I hope that answers the question there.
No, it totally does.
Yeah, great.
We each have 3 young boys, and so we're always fighting the clock mentally. We get to 4:35, 5:30, and we're like, we could definitely be working more on our show. We could definitely be wrenching on loan files or calling referral partners or any number of things.
Can always make more calls
to be more productive here at our business. But we
have to push pause. I mean, we have to push pause. And we have to go home, and you have to give it to your family.
Yeah,
because
my oldest is 15. He's driving. He's 2 years. Next year is going to go like that. He's going to be gone. And then I've still got 2 more coming up behind him, but it's all it goes so fast.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. The other thing to help with that I struggled with for years, the sort of phenomenon with an entrepreneur or just a small business owner, whatever have you, is it's our baby. We built it. We know what to do with it. It's our thing. Stay out of the way. I hired you, but you're just there to help me. When you don't delegate and reduce the anxiety with proper policies and procedures to let the good people do what you hired them for.
And that's taken me almost 20 years to get to
Same here, right? Because
hands down.
Right. And I think we can be transparent and open about that. And it's not something. So when I do a lot of work with the industry, and I do various courses. I hate to be called a coach or anything, but just sharing my journey. And a lot of these younger, great cooks, I call them, they're mechanics, but just like a good cook, he's now off to open his own place. And it's like cash flow and marketing and lots of things that come about. And so the KPIs to your business must be respected. Yeah. But what are you designing for you? And in order to do that, how are you designing it for your people that work with you and not for you? And I think we mentioned earlier, this is an opportunity because we're going to see a lot of below average talent just go away. If we can even call that talent, that is going to go away. And I think it's an opportunity for all of us to rise right now because of it, just like we did in 08 and 2000 and 01 and .com and we can go back and go on and on. But
so where is Desert Car Care today? How many stores do you have?
Well, we just have the one. At one time we had three. Okay. Chandler and Dobson.
Okay, gotcha.
Desert Car Care. Yep. And, I will tell you that we did sell that business in February. And we've got some great owners there and a whole crew. And so if anyone is watching or listening and they're in Dakota, North Dakota, we've got a network all over the country. My goal is to own property and, get on the map there, or peddle hot dogs down by the arena.
One or the other.
Just whatever, casually,
whatever works.
But my goal is to get into some commercial property.
Yeah, and Wrench Nation's obviously, it's your baby.
Yeah, you've got
right?
I was going to ask you about this too. Yeah. Like you've got several thousand subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube is
no easy feat.
Interesting. Yeah, whoever can benefit from it is how I look at it. Before it is, we're looking to grow stuff. We have been just fortunate. I've had, rest in peace, Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver on talking about his Corvair.
That's cool.
Princess Vidita sang an actual princess on Wrench Nation.
Oh my gosh.
That's an automotive artist out of Barwani, India.
Okay.
Magnus Walker, Dave Kindig. We've had sort of round table style shows with automotive legislators and stuff. And
I've seen some of your stuff. Your on location stuff is really cool too.
We have fun with
it. The racetrack videos are awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. We have fun with it. And
there's Lamborghinis in the background zooming by.
Las Vegas Concourse, of course, our local, big shout out to Peter Volney, the Concourse in the Hills, raises millions for the Phoenix Children's Hospital. That happens in every January. Highly invite everyone to attend that. There is eye candy galore behind the vehicular swag from Bugattis to Volkswagens to you name it, Ferraris and so on. So look, the show is a vessel. I didn't want to start out. I've got a lot of good friends that have their car talk shows, and we don't necessarily do justice there by giving folks a whole lot of tips. Yeah. But I just want to highlight the good works, people, places from all over the globe, and I've learned a lot from this show. And so, we're grateful, for the growth, and
it's really cool.
Just the opportunity, and our partners that align with us, that believe in us and help us pay the bills and all that.
So, Frank, you're going to be at SEMA next week.
Yeah.
All week.
SEMA Apex.
Oh, SEMA Apex.
All week.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
all week.
So SEMA is the big grand poobah. And the brother is, or sister is Apex, the Automotive Aftermarket Parts Expo. Okay. I'll be working with a few brands out there. Of course, Tech Force Foundation. Okay. ZF, aftermarket, huge part manufacturer. They're a global company. So we'll be doing some booth work. And so my goal with SEMA Apex is to take back to the industry, sort of formulate. We're getting the technical side of electric vehicles, but what does that look like from a business proposition? How are we going to make money working on EVs?
Right.
So my goal, and I say that respectfully, it's not like,
Yeah.
but we do. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to work on a Tesla, what's the opportunity?
Yeah.
Next week, we have a gentleman here in our backyard, Pete Gruber with Gruber Motors. He's, I believe it's next week, next couple of weeks, he's going to be a guest on the show. He's the largest independent Tesla provider,
No kidding.
Oh, no kidding.
like in the world.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're definitely going to have
Okay,
him on.
that'll
He's
be-
doing
that'll be great.
and he's here locally. In fact, I invite folks to catch his channel, Gruber Motor Company. He's got a great YouTube channel, and he's digging into Teslas and telling the stories. But yeah, I want to be able to report on that and see what that business model looks like for the future of the aftermarket. That's my goal.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it's good stuff. So.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up the show today. Frank, again, we really appreciate you having just the time to come and join us today.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
great having you.
Appreciate it.
Sure,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Awesome to meet you.
You guys keep doing the show, and we'll cross promote the show. We can always peddle our stuff. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, right on. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Frank.